Hopefully by now you've seen my reviews on the S25, S25 Plus and S25 Ultra and how they compare to last year's models. In today's video, I want to pose the question, do you really need the Ultra? This is a question I think people should genuinely ask themselves because I think lots of people buy the Ultra each year but never stop and actually ask the question of whether you should be. You're asking yourself, do I get this year's Ultra or wait for next year's, without ever considering the base S25 models. Almost like it becomes habit. The Ultra is the flagship model, so it must be the best, right? Well, I think there are lots of you out there that don't realise you're paying more than you should be, and that actually the regular S25s will offer everything you need. This year they closed the gap on the Ultra more than in any year before. With the performance, the battery life, even the cameras, they're definitely worth considering instead. I'm going to focus on the S25 Plus versus the Ultra because really deciding on the base S25 is a different argument, and it's one that I covered specifically in my S25 review. The Plus and Ultra are two similarly sized, spec'd and priced phones, and that makes for a very interesting comparison. If at the end of this video you still want to buy the Ultra, that's great. The goal of this video isn't to say that getting the Ultra is wrong. It's to explain the differences between the two phones, the pros and cons to each, so that you can make the decision that's actually right for you. Let's take a look. So let's start with the design where, for me at least, the S25 Plus wins. Aesthetically, I've always preferred the more rounded shape to the boxier Ultra design, but that's totally subjective. You may find the opposite, and in fact there may be some of you who actively dislike the fact that the Ultra is now less like a Note and more similar in design to the regular S25s. I like that all of the S25 and Plus models have colour matching frames. I think this looks a lot better, but with the Ultra it's only the black Samsung.com exclusive model that has this. The rest all have silver frames. I chose the two silver grey looking models for this comparison so you can fairly compare the bezels, but also just because I think these colours are pretty underrated. Ergonomically, the Plus does feel slightly better in the hand because the angle of those rounded corners is wider so they don't dig into your hands as much. The phone is also a bit smaller in every dimension, especially thickness, and it is a little bit lighter as well. Overall, it's just a bit easier to manage, fit in a pocket, and overall just more comfortable to use. With durability, the Ultra takes the lead. They've got the same IP68 dust and water resistance, but the Ultra has a stronger titanium frame versus aluminium, and it uses Gorilla Glass Armor 2 compared to Victus 2. But honestly, my favourite aspect isn't the durability at all. It's the anti-reflective coating that the Ultra has for its glass. It makes the phone much more readable in bright conditions. The colours and contrast look so much more vibrant and punchy, it's awesome. Of course, the major downside is that this is all completely undone if you use a screen protector, which, let's face it, most of us do. And no, I'm not spending $25 on Samsung's anti-reflective but flimsy protector either. Obviously, if you put the phone in a phone case as well, then there's really no durability advantage to the Ultra at all, so that's something to consider as well. As you probably know, the Ultra received a downgraded S Pen this year, which means it's not as much of a feature advantage over the Plus model as it used to be. It's essentially now just a stylus, but it's still one that you can seamlessly carry around with you inside the phone and bring out to use as and when you need to. It remains an extra productivity tool that the Plus model doesn't have. I think with this particular point it's simple. You either look at the S Pen and think, yes, I need this, and for you it's a deal breaker feature, in which case you definitely need to get the Ultra, and the rest of the video doesn't really matter. But for everyone else, have a think about how much you'd really want to have a stylus with you. How often would you end up using this, and more importantly, how much extra would you be willing to pay in order to get it? Next up we have the displays, which are essentially identical other than the size. The Ultra's is 0.2 of an inch bigger. They're otherwise matched in terms of specs, the same resolution, refresh rate, brightness, but you might notice that the bezels are slightly thinner on the Ultra, and of course if you're brave enough to go screen protector-less, then the Ultra's display is actually more visually striking. You might have a preference for either the rounded or boxier shape when it comes to viewing content, especially things like movies, but this is another purely subjective thing. Personally, I prefer the Plus's 6.7-inch display because it still satisfies that big phone screen criteria, but in the slightly more comfortable form factor of a smaller device. Speaker quality is another thing you might be wondering about, and not to trigger anyone's OCD, but notice how the charging port on the Plus model is not centered like on the Ultra. The speakers are also on opposite sides, perhaps related to having the S Pen, but more importantly, the quality it's actually a bit better on the Ultra, especially because they've really beefed up that front-facing speaker, so the overall sound is a bit richer in bass and a touch more volume. With performance, the key point is that the entire S25 lineup gets Snapdragon Elite chips, and this means that the narrative is completely different to last year's, and there's no unfair disadvantage in getting the Plus model compared to the Ultra. Last year, I said those of you in an Exynos region might actually want to consider an Ultra for this reason alone, but thankfully that's not an issue with the latest phones, and it does mean that the Plus and Ultra are even closer this year. They're even matching on RAM, Samsung DeX, connectivity specs, but for storage, only the Ultra has a 1TB option. Now, I'd personally advocate for cloud storage over these expensive higher storage models, but if you really need the maximum on-device storage, then this would be another reason to go for the Ultra. In terms of performance differences though, there's really nothing significant at all. You can see the slightly higher multi-core Geekbench score for the Plus, so I want to dispel the myth that the Ultra is faster than the Plus model. That's just not true, and the graphics scores are comparable too. In the Solar Bay Unlimited test, the Plus technically edges the Ultra here. So again, don't just assume the Ultra is better. However, I do want to point out the stress testing results. These test the long-term performance, like a long gaming session for example, and the Ultra did perform slightly better. Not only was the stability better, the performance didn't drop off as much over time, but it produced lower temperature readings as well. As the bigger phone with a larger vapor chamber, slightly better thermal performance does make sense. Now, I'm pointing this out for the sake of being thorough. Obviously, looking at the actual scores, it's not going to make a noticeable difference in real-world applications. For the vast majority of people, the two phones will perform exactly the same. But there are some of you who care about getting the very best performance possible, and the Ultra does technically have a slight lead when it comes to longer, more intense performance use. The other aspect of the performance is battery life, and whilst the most improved award goes to the smaller S25, the Plus and Ultra do offer Samsung's best battery life overall. On paper, the Ultra takes the win with the larger 5000 mAh battery, but in reality, I just didn't find it to be better at all. I tested the phones extensively across social media browsing, streaming YouTube videos and Netflix, making calls and using the camera, and the batteries were ticking down at an almost identical rate. I actually didn't see them more than a single percent apart, except for when I left them locked overnight and came back to find that it was actually the Plus model that was slightly ahead. It's possible the Ultra drains a bit faster in standby mode. The point is, you shouldn't just believe the specs, and if anything, the Plus might even offer you the better battery life. But essentially, they are identical, and battery life really isn't a factor when it comes to choosing between the two phones. Charging capabilities are exactly the same as well, so up to 45W super fast charging, 15W wireless charging, now with Qi 2 support, and here's how the charging times compare for those interested. On the subject of charging, I've got a couple of new ones to show you. Now, these were sent over to me by Anker a while back, but they're not actually sponsoring this section at all. They're just two genuinely great products I think you'll find interesting. The first is this 140W wall charger. It has 3 high-power USB-C ports and 1 USB-A port, so you can fast charge 4 devices at once. Including both of these Galaxy phones, it supports a wide range of charging protocols, including Samsung's Super Fast Charging 2.0. It also has a built-in display so you can monitor the temperature and power output to see exactly how fast those devices are charging in real time. The charger is designed with foldable pins, including for the UK models, and the ports sit underneath so they're not pulling the charger from the wall when you've got multiple devices hooked up. The second device is essentially the power bank version of this. It features just a single USB-C and USB-A port, but crucially has 2 clever built-in USB-C cables. The first can double up as a carrying strap for the power bank, very handy, and the second is retractable, which is obviously also very convenient, and it essentially means I don't generally need to carry any extra cables with me. Like the wall charger, it's got a smart display built in and the same universal compatibility for devices and charging protocols. The capacity here is 25,000 mAh, and this is flight approved, so it's an ideal travel companion. Honestly, this is my go-to power bank right now. But both this and the wall charger come highly recommended from me, so if you're interested in them, then of course I'll have them linked down below. Moving on to the cameras now, obviously the Ultra clearly wins on paper. It has a superior 200 megapixel main lens, the new 50 megapixel ultra-wide, and an additional 5x telelens to the 3x found on the Plus model. The selfie cameras are identical. Comparing shots side by side though, the difference really wasn't as big as I expected. Pixel binning on the Ultra should provide slightly sharper images, and at a push, I guess we're seeing that here. But mainly, I noticed a higher level of contrast and saturation. The Ultra shots just appear a bit bolder and richer. It's a subtle difference, but the S25 Plus does seem slightly washed out by comparison. Though I'd expect you could easily achieve the same look on your Plus model with a quick edit afterwards. As we saw in the Ultra review, that new ultra-wide lens didn't bring any drastic improvements either. Though once again, when you look in the corners, you will see that they're a lot sharper and don't suffer from the same softening as we see on the left. As for teleshots, the phones are comparable at 3x, as you'd expect. We do see that higher contrast again with the Ultra though. But as you zoom at 5x and above, the Ultra pulls quite significantly ahead thanks to having that extra telephoto lens. Images are far sharper and less noisy, and this is where there is an undisputed advantage having the Ultra. You might also expect the Ultra to do better with low light situations, but once again the two phones were fairly close. Typically there wasn't much to separate them, though the Ultra did sometimes appear ever so slightly sharper and occasionally showed brighter shadows. With zoomed low light, it really pulled ahead, and you can see how much more noisy the images are with the S25 Plus. I also found the ultra-wide lens of the Ultra was better here too. You can see the sharper details and richer colours. But the most interesting thing I found was just how poor the Ultra's low-light HDR performance was. Anytime I had bright highlights in the scene, they were usually blown out on the Ultra, and the Plus model would consistently perform better. I feel like we're too many weeks on from launch now that this is just some bug with the Ultra that can be fixed. Running the latest camera update today, it's still a problem. So you could easily argue that the regular S25s beat the Ultra when it comes to low light. Just to show you a video example as well, there's really nothing drastic separating the two phones. I'd perhaps argue the Ultra handles the exposure a bit better, but again, it's only a subtle difference and they've got the same recording capabilities. And finally, just to confirm with the selfie cameras, we have the exact same lenses here and pretty much the same results as well. If anything, I'd say the Ultra's processing is a touch sharper, but nothing you couldn't achieve yourself with a quick edit on the Plus model. Okay, and just to round things off, here are some samples of the front-facing video. And to be honest, I didn't really see a whole lot of difference, just as with the rear video. I will include the audio as well, so that you can compare any differences you might hear in the microphone quality between these two phones. But otherwise, they're pretty similar. Okay, so we should summarize all of the differences we've talked about so far, but firstly, the price. The Ultra starts at $300 more than the Plus model. And this is ultimately what inspired asking the question, do you really need the Ultra? So here's what that $300 gets you. A slight durability advantage and the anti-reflective glass. The S Pen, arguably the most significant addition, but obviously downgraded from previous years. A 6.9-inch display rather than 6.7. Slightly better speakers, possibly slightly better long-term gaming performance, and better zoomed photography with that extra telelens. Otherwise, we're pretty much matched in terms of specs and performance as we've seen, so can you see $300 worth of upgrades there? Because I'm honestly not sure I can, and I'm sure there will be lots of you who share a similar view. That's not even to mention the Plus model's advantages beyond the better pricing, how it's lighter and more comfortable to use, those instances of better camera performance and even battery life. The S25 Ultra is an amazing phone, just not as good value as the S25 Plus. Equally, there may be some of you for whom this video has cemented your decision firmly with the Ultra. That's great too. The main point is that I wanted you to ask the question, to really weigh up the two phones and not just glance at the specs. And I hope this video has been helpful in you making the decision that's right for you. If it has, please give this video a like because that really helps me out. Do also subscribe to see more videos like this one and hit the notification bell so you actually get notified by YouTube when those videos go live. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll hopefully see you in the next one.